filling up hell. Basically, by the way, that's actually the plot of Spawn. Yes, I kind of just want to point that out. Okay, so that's one crazy thing they did with the Punisher. The one. Yeah, I was about to bring up Franken Castle. And besides that being a terrible pun, okay, maybe it's a great pun, I don't know. Franken Castle was, let's turn Punisher into a Frankenstein monster and have him protect the monster underground, because we also have Werewolf by Night and Morbius the Living Vampire. I love Morbius the Living Vampire, unironically.
Did you like his series that was in Marvel?
Yeah, I actually did. It was pretty good. Morbius is one of those characters who I kind of just love because he's like a science vampire, and that's great. He's not like a regular vampire, so he's just like, I'm a vampire created by science. While also having Dracula in the mainstream Marvel comics. You know, you gotta love it.
Even John loves online.
Yeah.
Yeah, he showed up in that.
Yeah, like there's a lot of cool features to Morbius. Morbius had kind of like this real great. Anyway, that's Ed.
Now we're just into the top.
Okay, and Cosmic Ghost Rider. That just happened. He's Ghost Rider, Galactus, Punisher. He's awesome. We'll go.
That's not even continuity, though. That's based on Thanos.
No, but it's getting its
so
own.
good, though.
It's getting its own.
Whether it's in continuity or not, it's a good story.
It's
It's a good
so
story.
funny.
He's got a mini series. Like at this point, you might as well say he's like
Yeah.
big.
Alright, guys. So, it is 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock. Do we have to turn these mics on?
I don't know. I just realized the mics were not on. Well, I didn't just realize. I was just going to avoid the fact that the mics aren't working.
It's true.
Just send a message and I'll turn them on. Well, we can talk because I can project and you can project.
I think I can drink. Can everybody hear me? All right. Okay, so. All right.
Yeah. So, alright guys, this is Best of Marvel Comics. It's about the, generally I do from the Best of Marvel Now imprint, but they've now like moved on from Marvel Now at this point.
We'll go with Best of Marvel 2018.
Oh, you mean up to 20?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, we're only a weekend.
Yeah. Like, I'm just saying that, like, hey, this is what it is. Mostly because Marvel does kind of like a new imprint each year to an extent, and it's been kind of ongoing since the original Marvel Now. When Marvel just likes to reuse concepts over and over again, it's great and confusing. I used to work at a comic book shop.
So anyway, this is David.
Hi, I'm David. I used to work at a comic book shop. I run a channel called Exalted Speed, and I also do a Let's Play channel called Talendade. So people will want to find more stuff or hear me hate Alpha Flight for a while. You can do that.
Yeah, if you came to my panel last year, which was trying to summarize everything in the last since 2014 in an hour, which went as well as you could probably assume it would. He gave a lot of good comments, so we decided to combine forces and do a very pared down, just the best.
Yeah.
What we thought you should read and check out.
Yeah.
Just a note, like these are based on our opinions, so like there are plenty of books out there that we also think are good. We just tried to limit it to about 5 that we're focused on. I mean, there's literally over 5,000 comics put out in this period of time. So if something that you like isn't here, that's just what we can't do. We can't hit everything.
It's impossible to hit everything in the comic book industry because there's like a lot of stuff that comes and goes. And hell, there's even stuff I find that are like hidden gems that it's very hard to choose the best sometimes. It's just what it is.
Yeah, so I recommend, I try to read everything Marvel puts out. And how do I do that? Obviously, you should support your local comic book store. Oh my god. But if you don't have, like, I don't know, $500 some a month to spend on comic books, you can also sign up for Marvel Unlimited, which I find is a great way to keep up because they release everything on Marvel Unlimited 6 months after it comes out, and they have a backlog of all the comics prior, and they're constantly adding new old stuff. I buy about 30 or 40 titles a month through the Discount Comic Book Service, which you have to order like 3 months in advance, but you get a good discount on the comics. So if you don't have a local comic book store that you can support, I highly recommend if you want to read Marvel Unlimited is really cheap. The only problem I found is that I really wanted to support the books individually that I like. And I found that, the ones I really liked always got lower sales numbers, so I decided to start buying the physical copies or digital copies of the comics. So these stories only last as long as people support them. So some of these series that we really liked were only like a couple, like 20 issues or whatever before they got canceled.
Well, some of the stuff I put are mini-series, so they actually have to end points, to be fair.
Thankfully sometimes.
Well, you do what I did and work at a comic book store for about 2 years and get 35% off everything.
That also works.
That works for me.
I feel like not everybody can work at a comic book store.
You probably shouldn't.
Yeah. So I also, I don't know if you didn't declare this, but I didn't actually consider any Star Wars books in this. I figured I'd stick to the Marvel superhero line because there are a lot of good Star Wars, but I'm actually really, really behind on Star Wars right now, so I didn't feel like I'd
if I'm being honest, like a Star Wars just didn't stand out to me this year, and that's just my issue. If you're a Star Wars fan, great, love you. I'm just Star Wars out, and not to do anything in particular, just everything Star Wars. It's very hard for me to keep that love going. I actually like going through older Star Wars books just because I find them more fascinating and experimental. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just me. But hey, Darth Vader's good.
Darth Vader is consistently good.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so our first pick is you pick.
This one. So the Immortal Hulk. Now, some people think the Hulk doesn't have great comic books. Shut up. We'll start there. The Hulk actually has had a lot of good runs in comics. Peter David is a really great standout run. What if the Hulk cured himself, but still had problems? It's great. Check if you ever want to read the best Hulk run. That's the one. But the current Immortal Hulk run brings the Hulk back to his Silver Age roots, back in the 1960s, which means it's a horror title. Now, comics in America have one big problem. We don't really have enough genre diversity, and that's really the big issue there. But here's another factor. Our superhero books can actually be more experimental because they have to stand out. So we're dealing with a superhero horror title in this case. And this is what if the Hulk was a zombie. Now I know that sounds stupid because I just explained Punisher as Frankenstein, but Hulk as a zombie. So what does that mean? Well, every time Bruce Banner dies, he becomes the Hulk at night and takes his vengeance. And we're dealing with some other cool ideas. It's written by Al Ewing, who, if you don't know who he is, has been one of my favorite Marvel writers for the last couple of years. Always consistently undersells, but great. He wrote The Ultimates and a couple other things. And here's one thing that he excels at that not many writers do. He actually uses continuity without it being complicated. So he'll refer back to older stories, but keep the reader up to date. So if you kind of want to get a good idea of the Marvel Universe as a whole, any of his books, including The Immortal Hulk, can help you understand stories or characters that show up in concepts. Now, I have a particular hate of Alpha Flight, but he uses the character from Alpha Flight, Sasquatch, very well.
Yeah, he does.
Like he actually makes him interesting, which he turns into just a giant Sasquatch dude. He's never been that interesting because you also have Beast. Beast is cool. Sasquatch, But he uses all the characters and all the pieces well and turns it into an interesting horror title and experimental. Now you might not be scared of a big green dude who can smash you. If you are, well, yeah, that probably makes sense. But all seriousness, Immortal Hulk, one of my favorite titles on the stand, consistently good. Even now, it's only 11 issues in. It's been all good, and I can't really complain about it in any way, shape, or form. Horror titles are one of my favorite things, and like I said, I wish we had more genre diversity. In fact, a lot of the picks I chose have a bit more genre diversity than comics usually have, from Marvel too. So you'll be seeing some interesting picks.
I thought that recently they've been having a lot of trouble with the Hulk. prior in the series, and they injured She-Hulk to make her more of an uncontrolled Hulk, and they tried to make a horror comic out of that, and it didn't particularly work.
Well, it's mostly because of the writer Mariko Tamaki on that run she's a great graphic novelist, but she can't do monthlies. And all right, let me explain this whole terminology for people who don't know. Monthly books are hard to write because here's the thing. One of the problems with American comics also, we don't know how to do great single issues right now. We sell stuff month to month and expect everybody to read it eventually in a book. So it's very hard for a lot of writers to grasp down. You gotta make great individual issues.
That's also because they're pulling writers from
novels and stuff.
Novels and
that's what I mean.
YA
and
they're used to long form stories, or like, for example, like Tallahassee Coast, the story's really good.
But it reads better in a book.
You need to read it in trade.
But that's kind of the problem, one of the big problems with monthlies, is that we don't write great individual issues. And Mariko Tamaki, she writes great graphic novels, not great monthlies. And so she had an issue dealing with that. It also didn't help that she tried to turn it into a humor book halfway through. So it just became inconsistent. It's like, I'm dealing with PTSD, guys. Feel sorry for me and my super strength. And then it's like, I am happy She-Hulk again. Now I have PTSD again. It was a very inconsistent title. And if you want like a good, consistent book, and again, when you're reading comics or manga, you'll want consistency. It's that thing you gotta do. You gotta balance it out, you know. And that the Hulk had one good run before that, which was Gary Duggan, but it was cut short. It was about the Hulk becoming this guy called Professor Green and being like,
I didn't know
Smart Hulk.
yeah, Smart Hulk stories are great, guys. Like, you just think Hulk Smash is good, like, Smart Hulk stories, freaking fantastic. Any one of them, there hasn't really been a bad one.
Yeah. I like that in that story. What?
What about Great Pack?
Yes, Great Pack's good. Like, Gladiator Hulk's good. Like, there hasn't been bad Smart Hulk stories.
Yeah, I mean Planet Hulk, World War Hulk, those are all fun.
Yeah, okay. I will admit, Greg Pak's Weapon H series, which is about what if we combine the Hulk and Wolverine, is actually good.
It is, yeah. It's surprisingly good. It's one of those. It's definitely one of those books that I want to hate. Like, I'm like, there's no reason
This
why.
is like the most corporate BS.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we just put Hulk and Wolverine together, woohoo, and then you're like, oh man.
I want to hate it, but it's good. Like how I want to hate X-23 because she's just like a female clone thing for a while too. Like, it's just
actually.
Her solo is actually pretty good.
Oh no, she's had like a great amount of solos, but The Immortal Hulk is a great superhero horror title that does what the Hulk of a couple years ago was trying to do better. And that kind of sucks, but that's how it is. Like, when you get a writer who knows what he's doing, or she knows what she's doing, or anyone else, then you get a title that works. And this is really one of those titles where it's like, okay, Zombie Hulk, okay, this is good. It's a horror title. Yeah, well, let me put it this way. You want me to give you the spark notes here? Hulk was killed by Hawkeye in a crossover event. It was really dumb. He came back to life because of another, okay, good story.
Yeah, no, that was fun.
Oh yeah, no, that was a good story. And now he's trying to figure out what's going on and wondering why there's a green door. And I don't really want to talk about it because it is spoiler heavy. And they bring back a character who I thought would never be brought back. But I'll let you guys figure that one out if you want to check it out yourselves.
I got a question.
Okay.
What do you think of Amori Aging Hulk?
Totally Awesome Hulk?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually gonna comment on that. So you know what? I didn't hate it. I enjoyed what they were trying to do. However, I feel like only the first couple issues, and then like really at the very end of the run,
So
because they actually like do anything worthwhile.
Here's the thing. All right. The character they were using, Amadeus Cho. Amadeus Cho is actually a really good character, but his best story is not him as the Hulk. It's him as Hercules friend, sidekick, and everything else. If you can read the Incredible Hercules series to get a good idea of the character, you'll realize the lost potential of that book, which was this really great, interesting, viable character who, you know, I felt like Greg Pak just didn't want to write Amadeus Cho again, and so when he got the title, it just became less and less character. Because Weapon H, which is also written by him, which is about a different character, is really good. So I really felt like maybe something was just not clicking there, for various reasons. It's also probably because, like, one aspect of the Hulk that unfortunately is like this. The Hulk is very hard to turn into a legacy character for one good reason. Who wants to be the Hulk? Like, in all seriousness, one of the things about legacy characters that's appealing is wanting to be that character. So when you have a character whose literally problem is, I do not want to be them, who would you want to make it? Would you want to like have Bruce Banner give that to someone else, or just have not another Hulk? It's like one of those things like,
Well, I mean, it's not like there's not plenty of other Hulks running around.
oh no, it's not plenty of other Hulks, but they often work better as Hulk supporting characters rather than actual solos, except She-Hulk. She-Hulk's great. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll move to our next one.
Yeah.
So I picked. I realized you picked all 2018 titles, and I picked things within the last 5 years.
I want to focus in on stuff that people could
Yeah.
get recently, if I'm being honest.
Well, you can get it on Marvel Unlimited.
I know you can get it on Marvel Unlimited, but I just want you to visit comic book stores that are good, so that way they can get some support.
Well, they can also do good traders.
I know.
That's that.
Marvel sucks at reprinting their own stuff.
Oh my god, I have like a 5-hour rant about that.
Oh yeah.
I really like Spider-Verse. You know what I'd like to read? Spider-Man Noir. You know what's out of print? Spider-Man Noir.
Oh, you have
Spider-Verse is also out of print.
Yeah. No, I mean that's a whole other thing. We have time.
Go on.
Yeah, we're gonna focus in. We'll focus in on titles.
So, Jason, I highly recommend Jason Aaron's run on Thor. He's been running with Thor since I believe it's 2013.
Yeah.
He started with this great story called The God Butcher, which takes place in 3 different times. He weaves a story of a young, before he was worthy Thor, and a present-day Thor, and then a Thor at the end of time. And as they deal with the fact that this Thor, the God Butcher, is going around killing all the gods in the universe.
The best way to sum up Thor the God Butcher is basically imagine your atheist friend, but he became a supervillain. He's great.
Is that with the all one?
Well, I think it's not here.
We'll get into continuity stuff later. We'll focus on this one right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just, this run is probably, when he finishes, it'll probably be at the same level of like Walter Simonson's Thor, which is another like definitive run, in my opinion. The art's great, just the pacing, he weaves these 3 stories just like perfectly through the God, or Thor God Thunder story.
Well, the Jason Aaron run is not going to be my favorite Thor title probably by the end of it. Like, Walter Simonson is still pretty definitive. He did one page where basically sums up Thor, Odin, and Loki in one page. It's this great page where they're all together trying to fight off against the winter, where it's like Odin's going for Asgard, and Thor's going for Midgard, and Loki goes for myself. Like, that's very hard to top, but Jason Aaron's Thor run is really good. But I don't think it's very hard for me to recommend on one level of, there are definitely eras of it. You'll like some parts better than others. Some people will like the God Butcher stuff over the Jane Foster stuff, or the new stuff. And that's just the case of it, and that's one of the reasons why, and I get comments about it, like people told me about it, but it's a really good run and solidly constructed. There's some really good points to it. There's this really great story with Volstagg. Volstagg stuff in the story is actually pretty good. There's like that one issue where where he becomes War Thor was really good.
Oh god, yeah. When they start. What happens after the God of Thunder story is they start kind of playing with the Thor concept, and so they have different Thors like you're saying, from Allstack, more Thor, which is like the Mercury kind of destruction sort. But ultimately, Thor, after the events of Original Sin, finds himself unworthy, and mysterious for a few issues is that Jane Foster is able to pick up Mojorn and become Mjolnir, whatever. Ooh, I'm bad at pronunciation.
I've had to learn how to do that like 40 times in my life. At this point, I'm gotta be good at it.
And so, like, it becomes a mystery of like, who is she? Even though you already know, you as a reader know it, the Marvel Universe doesn't know who she is. And like, Odin's super not happy that she's running around, being the god of thunder. And Thor is just, or I should say, Odin's in it. Now that he's unworthy, is just like completely lost and like wandering around.
Look, if I'm going to be honest, the debate, there is like a small debate on whether it's Thor's name or a title thing.
Yeah.
I go with Thor is usually a name, but in this case it's like a superhero identity too, so just try not to think about it too hard, because Jason Aaron clearly didn't. But
you know what? It tells a good story.
It does
really need to make complete sense.
Sometimes it helps.
Yeah, his current run is just called Thor, and it's back to, stuff happens.
Yeah.
And it's back to
Thor,
God of Thunder.
Thor has a golden arm now.
And a bunch of animals.
Oh man, and there's like, they've pushed up a lot of characters, like there's a dog,
Thori, Thor. Thor.
Yeah.
We should bring back,
And his goat named something Asher.
he's been around for forever though, to be fair, that goat. That goat's been, Tooth Snatcher. Tooth Snatcher's been around since the 60s, so, that's a long-lived goat.
And the Hound, the one with the kill.
Yeah, but my favorite, actually, but like my favorite Thor character really is Frog, the Thor Frog.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love that one?
I'm enjoying this one, especially for the art. I really enjoy this artist, and inside looks just like the covers. And it's just like painting and beautiful, and like there's just all this like red vibrantness.
Alright, I will admit another problem with American comics, you sometimes don't have the same cover artist for the actual comic, so when that happens, it's a thing to be celebrated, loved, enjoyed, and hold for the love of God, I hope they don't still put a Spider-Man variant cover on it to celebrate something and put it on the Thor title when Spider-Man doesn't actually show up. I have a lot of issues.
I also really enjoy Thor when he doesn't have a hammer. Like, him with axes and crazy, they're playing with all these like different cool Asgardian weapons, and he's just,
Well, that just brings into question, unless Jason Aaron was such a giving people axes, he gave Doctor Strange an axe.
Everybody really does look good with an axe.
It's the newest fashion statement in 2018, get it now.
It's understandable, but like I said, all of Jason, I can unabashedly recommend all of Jason Aaron's run on Thor.
Yeah. Oh no, like I said, there's a lot of good points to it, and I think it should be read. It's just one of those things that's just like, hey, check it out. Like,
you should really hit the God Butcher and the God Bomb.
Yeah.
Really well done.
those are like the best, probably the best sections, but yeah.
We'll move on. I think we won't get into this if we continue.
Yeah, you're right. Let's talk about Spider-Man, and I want to talk specifically about Chip Zdarsky's run on the character. So he took over on Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man's my favorite superhero ever. Like, that's just, he's number one, he's best boy. But Spider-Man's always been my favorite superhero, and it's been hard to be a Spider-Man reader for various reasons, mostly related to marriage, devils, and everything else involved.
That's what a lot of people stopped reading.
A lot of people did stop reading, and sales have suffered, like genuinely suffered because of it, if you actually look at it. Spider-Man, and in general, Dan Slott had a long run on it, and now,
Like 10 years.
10 years, and as a comic book fan, people were definitely getting tired of Dan Slott's run. Even with the controversy of Superior Spider-Man and what happened there.
Well, I like Superior Spider-Man a lot.
There were some good bits to it, but the run afterwards where Dan Slott kept going, it was just kind of hard to get through. Peter Parker as a millionaire is an interesting idea. Dan Slott was clearly not really suited to it, and it just didn't really work because just minutes, and for whatever reason. Now, Chip Zdarsky on Spectacular Spider-Man, though, he does a lot of things right that modern Spider-Man writers just don't do, and there's a couple reasons why I bring that up. So, first of all, he remembers that Spider-Man's actually powerful. In the 5th issue, he has Spider-Man trapped in a building with cops, and he's just Peter Parker. Peter Parker doesn't want his identity revealed. So how does he get Spider-Man out of that? Which is a great idea. Spider-Man does it. So he just has Spider-Man punch through the floors of the building to get down to his costume, which is a great action sequence. Ingenious. Haven't seen that in a long time for Spider-Man. And a couple other things. One of the big problems with modern writers in Spider-Man 2 is supporting cast. People just don't get to that. Okay, The Secret of Spider-Man is a soap opera. And that's important to real life. It's a soap opera about Peter Parker. And that's kind of, unfortunately, one of the aspects about him is that if you don't have good stuff going on around Peter's life and Spider-Man's life, then you shouldn't be writing Spider-Man. And the way you do it is you gotta write interesting characters all around. Peter Parker's life has to be as interesting as Spider-Man's life. And what does he do? Alright, this is a big spoiler for it, but this is also the main point of why the run's good, so I'm just gonna say it. J. Jonah Jameson learns Peter Parker's Spider-Man, and that changes their relationship dynamic immensely. Creating an interesting relationship, and also kind of the heart of the run, it's a really interesting thing. Now, the run doesn't start off good. Issues 1 through 4, I can call a bit disposable, but issue 5 onward is fantastic. Peter Parker goes to another dimension where he meets himself as a teenager, and then convinces him, and then from interacting with his older self, stops being Spider-Man, creating, of course, a dark alternate timeline. You know how it is, it's comics. Dark alternate timelines just happen. But it's a really good run of emotion. Peter Parker feels like he's on point again. And in general, it's one of my favorite Spider-Man runs of the last couple of years. I recommend it. Chip Zdarsky is also returning to the character this year and called, he's doing a new Spider-Man miniseries which has an interesting premise, which is basically, I think it's called Spider-Man for Life or Everyday Life.
Yeah.
The premise is very simple. Spider-Man ages in real time from his first appearance in the 1960s to the modern day and interacts with various things that are appropriate. So we're getting a Spider-Man in Vietnam story, and I couldn't be happier.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so Chip Zdarsky's run. But in general, the Spider-Man books have been on a high point lately. Nick Spencer's amazing Spider-Man run, believe it or not, is also really good.
I mean, his roommate is the Boomerang.
I know, and if you want to check out a really good title, now, I always said this, my favorite story during Superior Spider-Man was not Superior Spider-Man, it was Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
And you stole my thunder.
I stole your thunder, and I'm proud.
I was going to jump in and say, if you're looking for past stories, they're really good. Superior Foes of Spider-Man is really good.
This has also been kind of an odd year for Spider-Man for one particular reason. Both his major creators died. Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, both died within the same year. His two creators died this year, last year, I should say. And that's a really weird thing to kind of think about in terms of good Spider-Man comics coming out right now. So
my two favorite feathers, Alex.
So I'll say this: Spider-Man in general has had a lot of ups. Like in all seriousness, his older stuff is still surprisingly solid. Look, it's 60s comics; it's going to come off as weird, but Spider-Man from the beginning has always been really good, and it's always impressed me. And that's one reason why he stayed my favorite character. Peter Parker's life is interesting. So, in general, Spider-Man right now is at a high point. I recommend any of his books coming out right now. Until the next writer screws it up and we get like 7 million clones. Like, let's...
Yeah, well, I mean, I enjoyed a lot of Dan Slott's run that I read. Especially I really like we were saying, Superior Spider-Man, where Doc Octopus actually becomes Spider-Man by taking over Peter Parker's body. And you get this great series of like what makes Spider-Man, like how somebody else without Peter Parker's responsibility would handle being Spider-Man, and how that goes off the rails.
My personal favorite actually is from Dan Slott himself. Is actually Spider-Man Human Torch. It was a 5-issue miniseries about throughout the different eras of Spider-Man and Human relationships. Because, all right, this is the weird thing about comics. People have relationships outside their own comics that are also fascinating. So Spider-Man and Human Torch have a rivalry / friendship going on. And it's a really good story, and I would actually really recommend it. If you can ever find it, because Marvel, like I said, is a friendship thing. So if you find Spider-Man Human Torch in any way, shape, or form, read it. It's actually really good. It also kind of gives you a taste of different eras of Marvel, too.
If you're looking for a good like little entry comic, 2016's Spidey. It pretty much just kind of is one of those good like just if you want to introduce someone to Spider-Man stories where they do about like I think it's about 16 issues long. The art's nice.
12 actually.
12. And they go over a lot of the they kind of retell some classic stories in a more modern sensibility. So it's a good like starting on point for somebody who might not be familiar with Spider-Man for some reason.
If you have younger children especially, I recommend that one actually. It's really good. It doesn't kind of get you caught up on the continuity to an extent, but it's kind of a great idea of getting what taste of Spider-Man on. Robbie Thompson is also a very underrated writer right now, so check it out.
And go see Spider-Verse.
Yeah, Spider-Verse is good too.
The next to run Spider-Man, the artist is the same artist from Invincible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan Otley. Yeah. Great stuff.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, it is great.
I love this one.
So my other pick is Marvel 2-in-1, which normally were B stories in the like 70s.
Actually, it might have been actually one of the first major Marvel arcs. So there was actually this little great. I actually read all of Marvel 2-in-1 back in the day because my uncle had every issue.
Oh,
So there's actually this really great arc where the Thing works as security for the government. It's really great actually. But
so Marvel 2-in-1, the current run, well it just finished.
yes.
Is a 12-issue series dealing with the fact that there was this big event, Secret Wars, in which at the end of it, the Fantastic Four broke up and
Marvel didn't have the rights.
yeah, and for some reason they decided to end the Fantastic Four
Coincidentally.
around the time of a bombing movie.
Yeah, and coincidentally, after some deals were made with a certain company that owns The Simpsons,
Yeah.
things started to change around.
I mean, that's probably not completely what this is about, but, so like, right after that, I mean, Secret Wars, by the way, the whole Hickman run of Avengers that goes into, like, reality's being destroyed, and I highly recommend it, but it's probably a pain in the neck to read, has the whole Marvel Universe get blown apart and recreated, when they come back 6 months later, the Fantastic Four is broken up. Reed Richards and Sue and their kids and the whole Future Foundation is missing and gone and presumed dead. So at that point, Marvel puts like Thing on the Guardians of the Galaxy for a little while randomly, which I
It
don't
was a
know.
Brian Michael Bendis comic, and that's all that needs to be said.
I feel like they keep throwing like random characters they don't know what to do with on the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that movie made a lot of money. Let's just put Captain Marvel here. Let's put
Just keep
Ant-Man.
Anyway,
Anyway,
the Dan Abnett run in print, and that will make everyone happy. Well,
Yeah.
make me happy.
so and then Fantastic Four dates Medusa and joins with the Inhumans for a while. But then this comic comes out and it's about them trying to like find who they are and how to define themselves without Reed Richards and Sue Storm and the Fantastic Four. And they learn that like they need to have that sense of exploration. Like Fantastic Four was all about family and exploration, and without those in their lives, they were kind of they were less. And so this story is about them it's about the Thing trying to get Johnny Storm out of a funk and find himself again. And they do that in a Fantastic Four fashion.
Yep. Like I said, one of the things that impressed me the most about the series is mostly, like I said, the writer. Chip Zdarsky has really come into his own as a writer. And you have to kind of understand, I follow a lot of comic book creators from different things. I'm not just a Marvel dude. I'm also a DC dude, an Image dude, occasionally Dark Horse, and everything else in between. And Chip Zdarsky has really improved his just so good now. It's insane. He wrote from basically making a comic where the joke was He-Man is gay to some of the best emotional stories in comics, which are great, and that really makes me happy as a fan of his work. It's really impressed me.
It's always good when someone grows.
Yeah, well, especially because he used to only just collaborate with people.
Yeah. So one note is the infamous Iron Man, which is after Secret Wars, Doom becomes a god when he saves reality, and that goes hideously wrong for him. And afterward, yeah.
As a rule in Marvel, every other week Doom's becoming a god.
Yeah. He decides, like, you know what? Since Reed Richards is gone and Iron Man's in like a coma, you know, and I failed. I became a god, and I failed at it. Like, I have to do something different. Yeah, I mean, he decides that he's like going to be like, yeah, he's going to find redemption and like, or well, it's not so much redemption. Yeah, I guess it is kind of redemption.
It does kind of like an anti-hero thing.
But he goes, so he decides to become Iron Man, and so he's running around. And everybody's like, Doom is running around in an Iron Man suit. Like, what is going on? And he's just taking villains out. There's got to be some greater plan. And the Thing is hired by S.H.I.E.L.D. to like hunt him down. And the Thing is just like, there is no way he's good. Like, and it's just
to be fair, nah.
Yeah. So, it's a really fun. I always like when they invert villains and make them heroes in one way. I enjoyed there was a Magneto run where he's going around hunting Nazis, or hunting anti.
Well, look. As a Jewish comic book fan, I appreciate that. One of my representations is one of the greatest supervillains of all time. So, you know, I appreciate that. So, Magneto has always been one of my favorite characters too. So, yeah, Magneto's great. Believe it or not, the Venom run actually right now is also pretty solid. It's kind of metal. Like Venom is like dealing with space dragons, and I love it.
Oh man, you know what really was good? Did you read Venom Space Knight?
Yeah, that was solid. Robbie Thompson also did that. Really great stuff.
If you was surprisingly good. I do not like Venom, and so like there's a bunch of characters that I hate, but the writers are good.
If you want to read the best Venom run, try and pick up Venom by Rick Remainder. Really good stuff. There actually is good Venom comics. I know it's shocking, but there's a lot of good stuff if you're willing to dig through some stuff. And big Venom by Rick Remainder, Space Knight. Okay, anything where Venom is Flash Thompson. Also, Flash Thompson is surprisingly one of the best comic book characters. Not a lot of people know that.
And he's not just the bully that you see in some of the comics.
Well, that's because they never really let him develop. I mean, they don't show him going to Vietnam and actually, you know, developing a character beyond, I'm Peter Parker's school bully. Hey, Parker, here's a wedgie. And he doesn't do that, so, you know, he's great.
We should hit X-Men Grand.
Oh, this is a personal favorite of mine. Okay, so, like I said, one of the things I picked in my choices for this panel is genre diversity. And this is an interesting idea for comics. Comic books as documentary. Like I said, so what does Grand Design do? It's 2 miniseries, 3 this year actually, and you can pick any of volumes up. Pick volume 1 up, because it sums up the X-Men history, and this is by a great cartoonist named Ed Piskor. Ed Piskor did a comic called Hip Hop Family Tree. And Hip Hop Family Tree is a comic I would actually recommend to people who kind of want to understand the beginnings of that genre as a whole. It gives you information you didn't realize, and it's just so fascinating to do. And he brings that style to X-Men. Who knew it would work? So here's the big problem with X-Men. It's hard to get into sometimes. And to be fair, modern X-Men doesn't make it easy either.
We could have done a whole panel on what has been going on in the last 5 years in X-Men, and it would be
we would probably have to take 5 hours out of our day.
There's enough X-Men.
I can't.
There was literally
X-Men is its own
four.
place.
I believe there was 4 beasts in the current timeline at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to cry.
They've been cleaning
the X-Men.
to their credit in the last like year or so.
Right.
They've been doing a little bit of work cleaning up the X-Men. Chronological, like just kind of tying up loose ends that have been left and not really resolved. But yeah, X-Men Grand Design.
X-Men Grand Design by Ed Piskor does what many people want is to sum up like about 30 years of X-Men continuity. So one of the important things to realize about X-Men continuity here is that the secret is you start with one writer, and that's Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont's run on X-Men is considered the foundational stuff.
Yeah.
And Ed Pisker's trying to sum all that stuff. Now, here's the thing about Chris Claremont. Does anybody know how long he worked on the X-Men?
From like 75, 76 or so to 1992.
17 years. Straight up, 17 years of comics. Which, and here's the thing, he was also writing at 1.4 titles a month,
Yeah.
which is insane. You shouldn't do it.
And that's when continuity actually was kept really.
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, he would actually keep track of where Wolverine was. So if Wolverine was doing something in his monthly book, he would not show up in X-Men unless he could find a way in, and so on and so forth. He was very tight and concerned with continuity, but that's not to say this. The reason that Ed Pisker's Grand Design is great is that he does streamline some stuff and take out some stuff that doesn't really work. Like, does anybody know how Professor X lost his legs in the comics?
A big stone slab fell on him.
Yes, you remember the villain who did it?
Yeah.
Lucifer.
Yes! Nobody likes that.
That is a really Silver Age villain.
And that's also not really why people tend to be in wheelchairs. It's more of a spinal injury. Or
Yeah, again, that leg injury, spinal injury, something.
The first volume really does a good job of like cleaning up the like how mutants kind of came into being and like Namar's influence on like kind of bringing Namar into the mutant history better than they've done in the past.
Ed Pisker also is great with humor at times. There's like little panels that are great, just funny. And the one thing about it is that he really gets the feel of this going age and tries to connect everything up. He brings in the Phoenix early on in the first volume, even though she wasn't
There for a long time.
She wasn't there for a long time.
Oh my god, we only got 5 minutes.
Really? Oh.
That's like 12.
No, hold it, 10:40. We got 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, I think they might not set up. But we should keep moving.
Yeah, keep moving.
It's like,
Oh, this is another one. Genre diversity is also something. So here's something American comics used to do but don't anymore: war comics. War comics were.
well, we don't have wars anymore.
Well,
right? They're not
that's-
officially wars.
Well, that's kind of the thing, and as much as like I understand controversies, but America used to have like there used to be like 4 ongoing titles about World War II alone in American comics. I know that's kind of insane to hear about, but that was the thing. So it's not a genre that's very used anymore for a lot of reasons. But like I said, American comics need more genre diversity, and in this case, we got Garth Ennis. So what's this about? The Punisher's first tour in Vietnam. Very simple, very straightforward. And here's the thing. Garth Ennis is probably the writer you want if you're going to get into Punisher. There's a lot of great Punisher stuff if you're willing to look, but you start with Garth Ennis and then just go from there. And so Garth Ennis had this great run on the Punisher called The Punisher Max, which is, I'm going to stress here, it's a very, very, very dark comic. Please don't read if you're thinking you can't stand themes of horrible things happening to people. And I just gonna leave it there.
Okay.
But the Punisher Platoon is something I think can be very easily done. It's a mature reader's imprint book, so don't read if you're 18, unless you're 18 or older. But it's about the Punisher's first tour in Vietnam and the people he served with. One of the things about this comic that's great is the art by Gordon Pablo. And I had to look up that name and pronounce it right, so you better appreciate that. And Gordon Pablo does a really great artistic thing of that. He really makes great sad men. Like, that's his style, sad men.
Mysterious right there.
Yeah, but his stuff that's really good is sad men.
Yeah.
And there's this really great, and the last page of this comic broke me down emotionally. And I'm not going to say why, but this is kind of where, one of the things about the Punisher that's a consistent theme is when he lost his humanity. And that's one of the reasons I like this comic. It's where you can see maybe the last bit of humanity the Punisher had left in him before he became the Punisher. Because Garth Ennis brought in an interesting idea to the character. Was the Punisher's family the thing that created the Punisher, or was it there before he became it? And that's the question of this run usually. So if you really want a great Punisher comic that explores those themes, his entire purview on the character is fantastic. Anything by Garth Ennis is that. Now, it's not for everyone, but he's the one who brought that to the forefront, and that's one of the reasons I can recommend this comic in good conscience to people. It's about, yeah.
Did you read the Punisher War Machine series?
Oh, where's that?
Look, yes, Punisher's War Machine. That's great, but it's not this Punisher.
No,
you know.
I can believe in that more than that time Punisher was Captain America.
That was like one issue.
It felt like it lasted longer than that.
Look. They couldn't do Death of Cat Superman and have like 4 Superman come around, one who was a clone, one who was a guy wearing armor, one who was a cyborg, and one who was just the Punisher.
If you're looking for a little less serious Punisher story, I actually really enjoyed it. Was the War Machine Punisher. Nick Fury needs the Punisher to take care of something, so it's like, here, take the and the current Rhodey had been killed in Civil War II,
Yeah.
sadly, and so they he was pretty much like, here, we need you to do something that no one else can really do. Here's the War Machine armor. Give it back when you're done. Which clearly does not happen. And instead, suddenly you have Punisher who just going into these like mob fights that he would normally be doing on his own, but with Iron Man War Machine armor. And it goes about as well for everybody involved as you would think.
One of my favorite things of all time is the one time Batman beat up the Punisher. That was great. Anyway. Yeah. This is actually a really underrated one in my opinion.
So Marvel Legacy is the imprint that came in after Marvel Now, and they've been trying to focus back on like kind of in some ways fixing a little bit of past continuity and making things a little bit easier.
It's kind of like that.
While respecting what came before.
Well, one of the big things is that, and this is kind of a sad thing to say about it, and I was working in the comic book store around this time, a lot of the legacy characters just did not take for a lot of people for various reasons. I mostly blame some mediocre writers on that end. And Marvel Legacy was really an attempt to get back more of the characters. It also helps that, like, okay, I'm gonna say this as a guy who worked in a comic book store. New people coming in wanting to read the old characters is helpful because, again, you need to sell it to people. And sometimes you gotta use the older characters to do that, to get them in. Because the characters they want to see might not be in the movie, are in the movies, but sometimes they're just not in the comics. And that's just the saddest part of it. But Avengers, oh my god, this story's good.
I mean, say what you will about current Marvel comics where there'll be like 5 Avengers comics and like, 20 X-Men comics and you can't figure it out. They cancel all of their Avengers stories except for Basic Avengers. And they pretty much combined all of them into this 12-issue series that came out weekly. And I mean, if you're looking for just a basic place to start on Avengers, it's great because the story starts with this character of Voyager showing up and claiming to be an original founding Avenger. And as they see her, they realize there's all these flashbacks of all these times that they suddenly remember where Voyager is with them. And so they go through a lot of cool moments in Avenger history, but with her like in the background or be like giving the pep talk or whatever.
So, like, Century style?
What?
Yeah,
like Century style.
So one of the big important things about the Avengers to realize as a franchise is that the Avengers is never, okay, so some people treat the Avengers like they're the Justice League. They're not. They're more like, well, it's kind of like this. The Avengers is actually about the B-list guys. Like, here's the thing. You don't read about the Avengers to read about Captain America, Thor, or Iron Man. Because guess what? They have their own ongoing titles. You can read those. But if you want to read about Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Vision, or anyone else, Living Lightning is a treat in this book.
Oh yeah.
But this is the only book you're going to read about them. And again, there's so many good comic book characters, and that's what Avengers is truly about. It's not about the big guys, it's about the little guys you just happen to like.
And what's even cooler about this story is what happens is Earth suddenly gets teleported out of its, out of the solar system. And everybody's like, what the hell just happened? And the Avengers are trying to figure out, and a bunch of, is Marvel even in that, or is she out in space?
I think she's out in
Stuff.
space.
She's
She's either out in space or dealing with the fact that she's a ripoff of Superman. Either
Nah.
way, that miniseries was awful, and I'll stand by that.
So what's happening is the game master and this adversary are having a game, and they're using Earth as the board. And usually you'd be like, well, the Avengers must be one of the teams they picked, right? Because that's what normally happens. But no, they're just the obstacles on the board. The game master picks the Lethal Legion, and the adversary picks the Black Order, which you might recall from Avengers Infinity War if you're not familiar with the comic. But and they're pretty much battling to get these MacGuffins, and the Avengers are like, holy crap, you're like destroying Earth while you're going for these things. So they like intercede at the same time, and it's kind of cool because like they're not the Avengers, while they are the focal, they're not really the people that are supposed to be in this event. And it's cool to see from that perspective.
Yep, it's true. This is actually a really good 12-issue miniseries, and the only issue you might have with getting into it is that you kind of have to read the current Avenger titles that were going on at the time.
I don't feel like you need
You don't need a lot, and thankfully, one of the strengths of the series is that it has Alan Moon writing, who, as a writer, knows that he has to sometimes let his readers know what's going on.
But yeah, they're making a sequel kind of weekly series that's just coming out now, where the Avengers are going to be in like the Conan universe.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's called Avengers No Road Home.
It's true.
I obviously haven't come out.
Nah, it's been only announced.
Yeah. So yeah, Marvel got Conan rights, so now you'll expect to see Conan all over the place.
Yeah.
That hasn't come out yet. Let's get to Daredevil, because Daredevil is an awesome run.
Alright, I guess
I don't know how to go through that.
I'll go through this. So there's actually a rule at Marvel I always say is true. Daredevil is usually one of the best titles you can pick out. And this is kind of the thing about Daredevil. For some reason, he just gets the best comics.
He's the best writers.
He gets the best writers, artists. Like, you can say a lot about Frank Miller. I'm not. But Frank Miller's run is really good, even now. If you want to learn how to do comics, or at least be inventive with your paneling, if you're a comic books writer, please be inventive with your paneling. Your artists will appreciate it. But his Daredevil run is fantastic, and Born Again, yes, you should read it. Read it.
Or watch Daredevil season 3 on Netflix, which is...
Read the comic. You see him fight Vietnam influenced Captain America, and you don't get that in that series.
So this Daredevil run, what I really like is that the initial story is about Matt Murdock trying to get, or one of the stories is Matt Murdock trying to get the courts to accept anonymous superhero testimony. And he brings it all the way up to the Supreme Court, which leads to this great scene, in my opinion, because I'm a big political junkie too, the Supreme Court, a verbal combat between Matt Murdock and Daredevil and the Supreme Court justices. As they were making like points, it's like Ruth Bader Ginsburg punching Matt Murdock in the face to counterpoint his argument. And it was just really well done visually. What I love about Daredevil is the court stuff.
One of the things about this run of Daredevil is that Charles Soule, the writer, is actually a lawyer himself. So he actually brings a lot of his legal experience to this comic, and I really recommend it. It's a good book on that basis alone. I can say a lot about Daredevil, but Daredevil's usually good. You can't go wrong with a lot of creators. And if you want like the best thing, Charles Soule's run, Mark Waid, and I know some people have issues with Mark Waid, but we're not getting into that. He's a good writer sometimes. As long as it's not Champions. Anyway, Jim Zub's Fishbender.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
But Brian Bendis, Frank Miller, Kevin Smith, David Mack, Joe Quesadas, all have great Daredevil stuff. And Daredevil is one of the few Marvel characters I can say I can recommend most of the stuff that was ever put out by Marvel for him.
Yeah, so, and because, just to get back to what the current storylines are.
Yeah.
So Kingpin does some things that are actually somewhat heroic during some of the big events that occur, and ends up getting himself elected mayor.
You do.
Mainly because he wanted to try to get around the fact that Matt Murdock made it really difficult for him and everyone because they would accept the superhero testimony. So yeah, well that's and then on top of that, like Kingpin liked to bring his enemies into like useless positions. So he makes Matt Murdock lieutenant governor, not knowing, of course, that he's at the beginning at least that he's Daredevil.
Well, Daredevil is good. I think you need to let's go through like the ones and we'll have a little fun on the afterwards.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Vision is good.
Vision is good. If you're looking for, it's a
tragedy.
It is ominous. It is ominous from the first page. You're like, hey, look here, welcome my family that I created because I want to have a family.
Let me put it this way, it's kind of close to a Greek tragedy in the sense that you know from the beginning it's gonna not go well. And it works on the suspense angle. Like one of the things Alfred Hitchcock is famous for is that he'll set something up and keep you thinking about it. That's what this comic does.
But it's all about him trying to find himself a place in this suburban community. I mean, one of the first scenes is a neighbor is coming to visit, and they kind of say like, well, you know, I think he's like an android, and they're like, and they kind of make kind of a, you know, racist synthoid comment behind the door, and they can hear it because they're androids.
Well, it's one of the things it goes kind of like into like another genre point of dark suburbia.
Yeah.
That's an interesting comic. And dark suburbia is an interesting genre, mostly because it's not just American Beauty that did it. A lot of other stuff was doing it at the same time. And this is one of the comics that actually hacks into that. And not in a cheesy 1950s, everything is the same type of way. Very modern, feels very fresh. It's actually set in Washington, D.C., so anybody who lived there, there's actually a lot of like places you can see there. That's really cool in that series. But yes, it's very hard because I don't really want to spoil this one. It's one of those things you need to read yourself. But it's a dark tragedy. Know that going in, because the comic makes you know. Yeah. I'm not spoiling that bit.
It has that omniscient, ominous narrator.
Yeah.
Like, so-and-so comes to the door, little did they know that the tragic events
Yep. And
would occur.
Little did they know, but it's a good comic, and he uses the Marvel Universe well, too.
Yeah, at the same time, being pretty accessible to anybody, there's like an issue where they examine like Vision and Scarlet Witch's relationship. It's all about like Vision's idea of a family and how you know, it's a little freaky to everybody else.
Yeah, but
Well, of course, Vision and Scarlet Witch did have a family, and it turned out to be like just those kids or something.
Well, yeah.
No, because here's the thing, that storyline is so stupidly complex that I'm like still trying to figure out, because we got two characters from it, and I don't know how to talk about them anymore with their origin. They just exist, and I should just accept it, because they're never going to figure that out. But
I put a whole bunch of honorable mentions. I'm sure we've mentioned the bajillion comics.
I could put like a bunch of honorable mentions. Now, one of the things I wish Marvel would do is that they would print out more stories that, like, okay, let me put it this way. I think there's just some comics that need to be constantly in print. Frank Miller's Daredevil, the DNA Guardians. Guardians of the Galaxy by Dan Abnett is the definitive version, and nothing really has come close, but there's a lot of good stuff. Cosmic Marvel, the Guardian stuff by Gary Duggan, really good. If you can find the Gary Duggan Deadpool, really good. There's some good stuff out there, and yes, I'm recommending Deadpool, but that's because there's actually good Deadpool comics, so yeah.
What do you think he wrote Deadpool for, man? He tried to throw a joke in every freaking
That's terrible, Deadpool.
Let me put it this way, Deadpool is, the best Deadpool is Sad Clown Deadpool, and that's the one I love. That's the best way of how you write the character. I actually have the omnibus by Joe Kelly, and he did a really great illustration for me when he autographed it. Great stuff, and he was the one who pioneered that. The best stuff is, if you want my favorite Deadpool story, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Volume 3 of the,
I highly recommend Unbelievable Gwenpool. Now you think that that would be a terrible comic because it's about a character from reality that gets shoved into comics.
It has one of my favorite webcomic writers,
Yeah.
Chris Hastings. He did Dr. Ninja.
Yeah, and I mean the premise is she's us, a comic book reader in the Marvel universe. So she knows everybody's secret identity. She knows everything, and you're like kind of like this is gonna be lame. But by the end of that series, she is using her ability to be kind of not a character, comic book character, to like just mess with the panel design. Like he was talking about, you know, if you're a writer, make it so the panels are great for the artist. This comic gets ridiculously fourth wall out there.
It's impressively meta in the way of, look, one of my big problems with current writers, meta can't be overused.
Yeah.
And you gotta balance it out. In this case, this is actually interesting meta. Like, it has variety to it.
I really also enjoyed the short run of Spider-Woman, where she's a pregnant superhero who then also has to raise a baby with the
The porcupine.
Yeah, the porcupine.
Yes,
turns out to be a good, you know, like.
there's a villain called the Porcupine. He exists, and you know, I've learned to accept it.
I'm really enjoying the current run of West Coast Avengers, where they kind of took a whole bunch of characters that had their series canceled and put them all in.
No.
And
Yeah. It's
so we gotta.
There's a lot more. Yeah, because we're 2 minutes in, and I think.
As I expected, there'd be a bajillion more comics that we could talk about.
Yeah.
But we actually got through it.
Yeah, we've.
So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions,
Yeah, I hope you guys have fun. Like,
I'll be standing outside for a few minutes.
I'll stand outside for a few minutes. If people want to field like questions at me, we go forward. I can talk to them. Well, I can do my alpha flight rants. I did promise one of my friends I would do my alpha flight rants.
Oh yeah. You should just submit a panel on Magest.
Why
do
alpha?
a comic event.
Yeah, why alpha flight is not I'll stand by that. Joking aside, it's not the fact that that's bad, it's the fact that you're so boring.
It's like, definitely like that one page, like, take your page. Like, you already know what's going on. Like, no recap at the beginning, no, like,